Bright Tutee. Every student matters.
Hello students, in this lecture we will be starting with the first chapter of your syllabus, and this chapter is crop production and management. Students, as you can understand by the name of the chapter, this chapter is related to agriculture, right? How we grow the crop that we need, such as wheat, rice, what are the different seasons that are involved, what are the different instruments that are involved. We will be studying about all of this, and also how we store the crop that we obtain, the yield that we obtain from agriculture, right? So let us start. Students, first of all, you have to understand what agriculture is. The practice of raising plants and rearing animals for food and other useful products is known as agriculture. Let us reread the definition. The practice of raising plants. Raising plants, how do we raise plants? We raise plants in fields, right? We grow them, we grow their seeds, and that is how we obtain plants of them, and then from again plants, we obtain seeds back again. So, most of that seed that is produced is used for consumption, right? We eat those seeds such as wheat, rice, cereals. We eat those seeds, and some of them are utilized to grow the next batch of seeds, right? And rearing of animals. Students, for our crop production, we require some animals as well. We will be seeing how animals are helpful in the production of crops. So we rear animals as well for food and other useful products. For food, basically, for example, from animals we obtain milk, right? We obtain other dairy products such as curd, right? Khoya, paneer, etc. Everything is obtained from milk. So this is how raising plants and rearing animals helps us in obtaining food, right? We obtain food from animal and plants, and this is the part of agriculture. This is basically agriculture, in which we raise plants, rear animals for food and other useful products, which is known as agriculture. Now students, coming to the next thing, that is crops. Same type of plants being cultivated at one place on a large scale is called a crop. Students, what does the statement say? It says that same type of plants, basically if you consider a field in which you are growing wheat, right? So there is a large portion of that land on which same kind of plants are grown, right? Same kind of plants on a large piece of land, for example 2 to 3 acres, are plowed to grow crops, to grow wheat. So same type of plants being cultivated at one place, the land that we are referring to, on a large scale is called crop, right? For example, rice, wheat, etc. These are the crops that are grown mostly because they are very important for us for our daily lives, because we use them very much. These are used more than other cereals and crops, right? The plot of land used for cultivation of crop plants is known as agricultural field. As I told you, the land that is used for cultivation of crop plants is known as agricultural field, right? Now students, crops are classified in various ways. Basically, we can classify them in various ways. The first way is on the basis of season. Students, in every season you cannot grow the same kind of crops. It depends whether the season is winter or summer or autumn. According to the seasons, we grow our plants. Then second categorization is on the basis of products obtained from the crop, right? First depends on the season, second depends on the products obtained from the crop. So let us start with the first classification. It is based on climatic condition, basically seasons, right? Now students, rabi crops or rabi crops. What are rabi crops? During winter season, From October to March, this is referred to as winter season. From October to March, October of this year and March of next year, it is duration of 6 months, right? It is basically 6 months. During this season, the crops grown are wheat, gram and pea. Alright, wheat, gram and pea. If you are asked what are Rabi crops, give examples. Rabi crops are the crops which are grown during winter season, which is from October to March, and the examples are wheat, gram and pea. Second kind is Kharif crops. Rabi is for winter, right? You have to remember, Rabi is for winter and Kharif is for summer. It is basically from during rainy season these crops are grown. Not summer, actually this is rainy. Alright. Now you can understand, if we are considering rainy season to grow these crops, this means that we must require a large quantity of water to grow these crops, right? We require larger quantity of water to grow these crops. They are grown from June to September, right? It is a shorter period of time, right? Basically it is June, July, August, September, 4 months only. This is for 4 months. And examples can be paddy, maize and cotton. Students, paddy is basically rice. Rice is known as paddy when we talk in agricultural terms. They require a lot of water to be grown. Paddy, maize and cotton, right? These are Kharif crops. So on the basis of climatic conditions, we divide our crops into two major categories. First one is winters, which are grown in winter season and they are known as Rabi crops. Second are Kharif crops, which are grown in rainy season and the duration is from June to September, right? Basic practices of crop production, right? Till now we have understood that what crops are, on what basis they are classified. So there are certain practices which have been adopted by our farmers, which help them in growing better crops and also obtaining crop in time, right? Students, cultivation of crops involve several activities undertaken by farmers over a period of time. Obviously, there has been a long time of experimenting how we can obtain a better yield in a good time, right? So there are several activities involved in cultivation of crops. These activities are similar to those carried out by a gardener or even by you when you grow ornamental plants in your house. There are certain practices that you also must do when you grow certain plants at your homes, such as flowers or aloe vera. These plants also require some basic gardening activities. Now there are some basic practices that we will be studying in this chapter. These activities or tasks are referred to as agricultural practices, and this is what we are going to see in this lecture, that what are the names of these agricultural activities. So what is the definition of agricultural activities? Cultivation of crops involves several activities undertaken by farms over a period of time. Farmers, these activities or tasks are referred to as agricultural practices. Let us see what these activities are. The basic practices of crop productions are: first step is preparation of soil, second is sowing of seeds, third is irrigation, fourth is protection from weeds, fifth is crop protection, right? Then sixth is harvesting and seventh is storage. Let us go through them once again. First is preparation of soil, in which we will study what plowing is. We basically plow the field to prepare the soil for sowing of seeds. Sowing of seeds is basically the process in which we put the seeds in the soil, right? Third is irrigation, in which we provide water to the crops. There are different ways of irrigation that we will be studying in detail. Then protection from weeds. Students, weeds are unnecessary plants that grow alongside our crop, and they utilize the nutrients which are important for our crop. So we have to protect our crop from weeds as well. Then crop protection again from other factors such as animals, birds. Here techniques such as scarecrow are used. Scarecrow, what is a scarecrow? It is basically a structure in which on a wooden bar, for example, this is the wooden bar. In this you make a human out of it, right? You draw, you basically put clothes on the wooden structure so that it looks like a man, right? That it looks like a man, and you make it stand in a field, right? These are crops, and you make the scarecrow stand in the field so that animals think that there is a human standing in between the crop, so they do not harm the crop because there is a scarecrow standing. So this is how we protect crops from animals and birds. Third is harvesting. Harvesting is basically taking out the yield that has been produced, right? Obtaining the yield from the fields. Last is storage. Obviously, thousands of tons of crops are produced, so you cannot just use them on the point, right? On the spot, that you have produced the crop and you will not consume it and on the spot. You have to store them before they are sold. So for this, storage is required, right? So these are the basic practices of crop production that have been adopted by farmers over a period of time. How we plow the fields. There are certain agricultural implements. First of all, there is plow. Now what is plow? Plow is this instrument, as you can look in this picture. This is a wooden handle of the plow. This is the surface, and the surface, basically the main instrument has a sharp edged end, right? It is a sharp end. It kind of acts like a blade. It helps in moving through the soil, and it is put behind an animal. An animal pulls the plow so that this instrument can dig through the soil and the soil can be turned and loosened, right? This is how it is used. This is a man which is pushing this animal, and this animal is pulling this plow through this rope, and this plow basically digs the soil, right? This instrument is known as plow. Second is a hoe. Now this is also a manual hoe, right? This is used with the help of hands, and we basically dig up the soil with the help of this hoe with our hands. This is manual. Then the instrument that is used with the help of animals is this. This is also a hoe. Now what does this contain? It has a bent plate, it has a grip, it has a handle, then it has a beam, and it has a rod, right? Now this is also fixed on the animal, and it is again dragged. So this also helps in plowing only, right? This is somewhat advanced as compared to the plow. Third is cultivator. Now cultivator is also a kind of hoe and plow mixed, but it is not manual. It is kind of an instrument, and it has better advantage that it does not take any labor. No labor is required because you are not working it manually. The tractor pulls it. Tractor is used. The cultivator is attached with the tractor, and it digs many rows at once. As you can see, there are many blades attached, so they dig too many rows at once, and they are arranged in this way that the first row is like this, right? The second row is this was the first row. The second row is present behind the first row, and it is present in the between of the first row. So there are more number of rows that are digged, right? So these are the agricultural implements utilized for plowing of a field, right? Preparation of soil. In this lecture, we will be studying the first agricultural practice in the growth of crop. The first agricultural practice is preparation of soil. So what do we do in the preparation of soil? Basically, we turn the soil and loosen it. What do you mean by turn the soil? Turning the upper surface of the soil. For example, this is soil, and you turn the upper surface and bring the inner surface on the above side. That is known as turning the soil, and loosen it. basically a field that has been kept for a longer time, the soil tightens, right? It is tightened, so we have to loosen it so that the air present in the soil is increased in the soil, right? The amount of air present in the soil is increased. So we have to turn the soil and loosen it to make it soft. Basically, the hard soil is converted to the soft soil, right? The loosened soil helps in the growth of earthworms and microbes present in the soil, right? The loosened soil basically helps in the growth of earthworms and microbes. Now students, how are earthworms and microbes helpful? Let us see. They further turn and loosen the soil and add humus to it. These earthworms further turn and loosen the soil, both of them, earthworms and microbes. So they are helpful to us, right? Now we already know that soil contains minerals, waters, air and some living organisms. Yes, there are some living organisms that live under the soil. So we basically turn and loosen the soil for the better growth of earthworms and microbes, which in turn help in turning and loosening of the soil, right? Now in addition, dead plants and animals get decomposed by soil organisms. The plants that have died now are decomposed by soil organisms. In this way, various nutrients in the dead organisms are released back into the soil, right? Now students, when you grow a crop in the soil, the nutrients of the soil are taken, right? The soil then lacks the nutrients because the plants have taken up all the nutrients. So microorganisms help in gaining back the nutrients from the dead plants, right? These nutrients are again absorbed by the plants. So because the soil also needs the nutrients to further give it to plants, so these organisms help in obtaining nutrients from the dead plants and animals, so that the soil becomes nutritious again, right? Since only a few centimeters of the top layer of the soil supports plant growth, turning and loosening of the soils brings the nutrient-rich soil to the top. The nutrient-rich soil is some centimeters below the top layer, so we turn the soil so that the nutrient-rich soil comes on the top, right? So it helps in the better growth of plants. It supports the plant growth, right? So this is why we turn and loosen the soil for the better growth of our plants. And microorganisms help in basically growth of the plants. How? Because first of all, earthworms and microbes help in loosening and turning of the soil, and the microorganisms present in the soil, help in the decomposition of dead plants and animals. In this way, all the nutrients from the dead plants and animals are absorbed back by the soil. Now, how do we prepare the soil? There are 3 steps. First is plowing, second is leveling, third is adding manure and fertilizers, right? This will be studied in a separate lecture. We will be studying these 2 in this lecture only, right? The first step is plowing. The first step is basically plowing. This is used to loosen and turn the soil. The process of loosening and turning of soil is called tilling or plowing. So tilling and plowing are basically the same thing. In this process, we loosen and turn the soil. It is done by a plow, hoe or cultivator, right? We will be looking at them again after this slide. First of all, let us see the advantages of plowing. Why do we plow the field? Firstly, for the aeration of roots, basically to increase the amount of air present in the soil, right? Because our plants need air for growth, so soil must also have some air. So first advantage is aeration of roots. Second is roots can grow deep into the soil. If you have given the opening to the plant and there is the top layer has been put aside and the bottom layer has been brought up, so there is a depression in the soil, right? This was the surface. When you dug it somehow, there is a depression in the soil. So the plant roots can reach even longer, right? Because they are already present somewhat beneath the ground. So roots can grow deep in the soil. Secondly, growth of earthworms and microbes, as I already told you. Loosening and turning of the soil helps in the growth of earthworms and microbes. That in turn help in more loosening and turning of the soil. Fourthly, easy for farmers to apply fertilizers. As you can see, this is a plowed field. There are rows, right? In these rows, this is basically the soil, and in the depression, here is where we put our seeds in the deeper soil, right? So this also helps in farmers to apply fertilizers. Then plowing brings nutrient rich soil on the top. This is the most important advantage, that the nutrient rich soil, which is somewhat beneath a few centimeters, is brought on the surface by plowing, right? So these are the advantages. Leveling. What is leveling? Leveling is done to make the surface of the soil uniform after the process of plowing. Now we have plowed the field. Now the soil has become uneven, right? It is uneven and it is not uniform. So to make it uniform before sowing of seeds, leveling is done. And how it is done? We basically use leveler. It is attached again to a tractor, you can say. Now what does the tractor do? For example, these are the rows that have been created, right? These are the rows, they are uneven. Now the leveler is put at this height, right? This is the leveler now, right? Imagine this to be a leveler. It is attached to a tractor and this tractor moves on the rows, right? So this leveler brings all the rows in a level. The depression remains the same, but these heights are leveled, right? To make it uniform before the sowing of seeds, right? Now what are the advantages of leveling? The bigger chunks of soil are broken down into smaller pieces. As bigger chunks of soil are very hard, they are not loosened, right? They are not loosened, so they cannot help in growth of crops. So bigger chunks are broken down to smaller pieces which can help in crop growth. Then prevention of soil erosion by wind or water. Because if the soil is uneven, it can easily be flown away with the wind or water. But if it is even and the soil holds itself properly because of leveling, the soil erosion can be prevented. Then promotes uniform irrigation, thus helps in water conservation and prevents waterlogging. Now irrigation is basically the process in which we provide water to our plants. So for irrigation, we require uniform rows because it helps in water conservation, because if the rows are not even, the water distribution will not be even and water will be wasted for rearrangement and more water will be required. So it helps in water conservation and prevents water logging. Water logging is the collection of water at some point leading to destruction of crops. So water logging is also prevented and water is conserved as well. So leveling is very important for us. And this was the topic in which we talked about the preparation of soil before the sowing of seeds, right? In this we do plowing, leveling and adding of manure and fertilizers. About manure and fertilizers we will be discussing separately in the fourth topic. In this topic we discussed plowing and leveling. Plowing is done to basically loosen and turning the soil. It is done with the help of plow, hoe and cultivators. It has many advantages that we discussed. And then after plowing, we carry out leveling, which again is very important for us, right? We discussed that right now. So this was the third topic of this chapter. Thank you for your attention, students.